ever put on a song and just bam, instantly your whole world shifts. You know, a melody just throws you back in time. You can see it all so clearly.
Oh, absolutely. Or a rhythm just unlocks a feeling inside you. Maybe joy, maybe calm, maybe even that kind of comforting sadness.
Exactly. It feels like so much more than just, sound hitting your ears. It's powerful, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, inexplicably powerful sometimes. Have you ever really, stopped to dig into why your favorite music hits you like that?
Yeah, it's funny we talk about music taste, right? Like, oh, I like this, you like that. But it's so much deeper. The impact it has, I mean. Mm-hmm. And, well, the sources we're looking at today, they really unpack that. There's this whole complex thing going on, science, psychology, even our evolution. Music isn't just background noise, is it? It actively shapes us. Mm-hmm. Our biology, our feelings, memories, even how our brain is wired.
Right. And that deep connection, that power, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We've got all this material research, articles on the psychology, the neuroscience of music, and we're going to try and figure out the specifics. The mechanisms, the benefits, why music is so central, why it really is the soundtrack to our lives, especially the best parts.
Yeah, the mission here, I guess, is to get past just saying, oh, music makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. We want to understand the how and the why, what makes it so fundamental.
It's like unlocking the secrets behind the magic, right? Finding the code in our brains and behavior.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's dive in. Where should we start? I think the most obvious place is how music guides our emotions. That's how most of us use it day to day, isn't it? To feel something. Or maybe to change how we feel.
Precisely. And that's a huge point in the sources. I mean, think about it. Music is everywhere. Yeah. Every culture, every age group, every stage of life, every occasion. It's universal. Mm-hmm. And that's not by accident. It sticks around because fundamentally, it's just this incredibly potent tool for managing our emotions. We don't just listen to it. We actively use it, often very deliberately, to tweak how we're feeling.
Totally. We make playlists for moods, don't we? Like high energy stuff for working out, something chill for relaxing after a long day.
Yeah.
Maybe something kind of sad and slow if we're feeling thoughtful. We're consciously picking the music to match or shift our internal state.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
We use it for energy, for focus, when things are boring, but mostly, to change or boost our mood. And the science actually explains how this works right down to the biological level. Mm-hmm. You mentioned feeling good. Let's talk about the brain's feel-good chemical. Dopamine.
Yeah, dopamine, the pleasure and reward chemical.
That's the one. And the research, like some classic studies from McGill University that are mentioned, shows a really clear link. Music you love, it triggers dopamine release. So in one really cool study, they used Keek scans. They got people who really loved music, injected them with this tracker substance that sticks to dopamine receptors. Then they played them their absolute favorite tunes, the ones that gave them chills, pure pleasure.
And the scans showed
a big release of dopamine, right in the brain's reward circuits, areas like the nucleus accumbens.
Wow. So it wasn't just them saying, yeah, this feels good. You could actually see the chemical reaction happening in their brains.
Exactly. They could measure it. And the amount of dopamine released, it directly matched how much pleasure the person reported, feeling happiness, excitement, that kind of euphoric rush. So it's not just a metaphor of feeling good for music. It's a literal neurochemical reward. Finding joy in music is biologically real.
That totally explains that high you get from an amazing song, that feeling of just...
Easy.
Yes. But like we said, music isn't only about chasing happiness, is it? It's also this huge resource when we're dealing with stress or sadness or difficult stuff. How does that work? Is it different?
It's definitely a different side of music's power. A really important way it helps us cope is through what psychologists call disengagement. When your mind is stuck in a loop, worrying, grieving, stressed out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, listening to certain music, maybe sad music or something just really emotionally resonant, can help you step away mentally from that immediate pain.
So it's like creating a little mental distance, a buffer zone.
Exactly. You shift your focus. Instead of dwelling on the problem, you focus on the music itself.
Yeah.
The beauty of the melody, maybe, or the singer's voice, the lyrics. Mm-hmm. It redirects your attention, gives you a temporary break. That mental shift can be really crucial for coping, even if it doesn't solve the problem right then.
And the lyrics, they must play a huge role there, too.
Oh, absolutely. Huge. When you hear lyrics that just perfectly capture how you're feeling, especially when you're struggling to put it into words yourself, that can be incredibly validating. Mm-hmm. It's like the song is speaking for you. Makes you feel less alone, more understood. So the music isn't just a distraction. It connects with your pain, gives it shape.
Now, The sources also mentioned something interesting about genre, like the type of music matters for coping.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's maybe not what you'd expect. A lot of us might blast something loud and angry when we're upset.
Okay, yeah.
But some research actually suggests that softer, slower music, maybe even classical, might be better for actually managing those negative feelings in a calming way. It soothes rather than just vents or agitates.
Okay.
But then again, if you're in a stressful situation, but you're trying to stay positive, trying to keep an optimistic outlook, listening to happy, upbeat music can genuinely influence how you perceive the situation. It can help you face it with a more positive mindset. So yeah, it's about choosing the right tool for the emotional job,
That makes sense. Which leads us to that really fascinating puzzle. Why do we sometimes choose to listen to sad music? And why can it actually feel good? Even if it makes us tear up.
It seems totally backwards, doesn't it? And for some people, sure, sad music just makes them feel worse and amplifies the sadness. But for many others, it's different. It can be cathartic or like finding solace.
Like the music is a friend sitting with you in the sadness.
Exactly. Offering empathy without judgment. And the sources dive into a possible biological reason for this, involving a hormone called prolactin.
Prolactin. Isn't that linked to crying and also like nurturing feelings?
That's the one. It's complex, but one theory is that the whole physiological response to sad music, which might include crying or just feeling that sympathetic ache, could trigger prolactin release.
Okay. And what does prolactin do then?
Well, prolactin is associated with feelings of calmness, and it seems to help regulate or curb mental pain and grief. So the paradox is, engaging with sad music might actually kick off a biological process that brings a sense of relief or comfort, counteracting the initial sadness.
Wow. So the act of feeling sad with the music might physiologically help us feel better afterwards. That's wild.
It has a whole other layer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just wallowing. It could be a kind of biochemical route to emotional balance.
Yeah.
And then there's that other really powerful thing music does, that feeling of being deeply moved. Goosebumps, lump in your throat, maybe tears, but not necessarily from sadness, just from the sheer beauty or power of it.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Happens all the time. It's hard to even describe that feeling.
Right. And the sources touch on this. They describe it as this profound sense of awe, admiration almost, like wonder at what other humans can create with just sound. It's tied to appreciating human creativity. And this intense feeling, it's not just passive. Some research suggests it might actually connect to shifts in our motivation.
Yeah.
Maybe it inspires us to be better or contribute more, fueled by that feeling of awe. There might even be neurochemicals like oxytocin involved, which is linked to bonding and connection.
So it's like experiencing something so beautiful, it actually makes you want to, I don't know, elevate yourself somehow.
Potentially, yeah. It just shows that music's emotional reach goes way beyond simple happy or sad. It taps into these deeper feelings, awe, connection, inspiration. So whether you're using upbeat stuff for energy, calm music to chill out, finding comfort in a sad song, or getting choked up by a symphony, you're basically using music as this incredibly sophisticated tool to navigate your inner world.
It's fundamental. It's how we manage our internal state, and it's all backed up by biology and psychology.
Exactly.
And as the sources show, the impact goes even deeper than just mood, right? It's not just influencing our brains in the moment, it's actually physically changing them.
That's absolutely right. We're moving beyond just feelings now into neurology. Music isn't just psychological, it's neurological. Engaging with music repeatedly, especially music that really means something to you personally, can cause real measurable changes in your brain's structure and how it functions. That's brain plasticity in action.
Okay, this is where that incredible University of Toronto study comes in, the one with the Alzheimer's patients. That sounds hugely significant.
It really is groundbreaking stuff. They worked with patients who had mild cognitive impairment or early stage Alzheimer's. And they had them listen repeatedly, daily, to music that was personally meaningful. Songs tied to big life events, their wedding song, maybe something from their graduation, music deeply embedded in their personal history.
Right, autobiographically salient music, they called it.
Exactly. And what they found was pretty amazing. Just listening consistently to these personally resonant songs actually induced beneficial brain plasticity in these patients.
Beneficial brain changes in patients already experiencing cognitive decline.
Wow,
That's wow.
It is brain plasticity. It's the brain's amazing ability to rewire itself, form new connections. And in this study, the brain changes they saw linked directly to better memory performance. The patients actually improved on cognitive tests, memory tasks specifically.
So wait, just listening to their favorite old tunes didn't just make them feel good emotionally, which you'd expect. It actually seemed to boost their memory function.
That's exactly what the data suggested. Looking at brain scans, the researchers saw significant changes in neural pathways. They noticed increased activity and better connectivity, especially in the prefrontal cortex.
Prefrontal cortex, that's like the brain's CEO, right? For planning, decisions, retrieving memories.
That's a great way to put it. It's the executive control center. And they also saw changes in subcortical regions, too.
Why are those subcortical areas important here in the context of Alzheimer's?
Well, these are older, deeper parts of the brain involved in things like emotion, motivation, basic functions. And crucially, in early Alzheimer's, these deeper areas are often less damaged by the disease compared to the cortex, the outer layers. So the music might be tapping into these relatively preserved areas to help access and stimulate the cortex.
Okay, I think I follow. And this led them to talk about a specific musical network.
Yes. Using fMRI brain scans, they identified what they called an autobiographically salient music network. It's like a specific set of brain regions that light up together when you hear music that holds deep personal meaning for you. And after the period of daily listening, the activity and connections within this network actually changed, got stronger.
And the key thing was the personal connection, right? What happened with unfamiliar music?
That's the crucial contrast. When these same patients listened to music they didn't know, the brain activity was mostly just in the auditory cortex, the part that simply processes sound. Basic hearing.
Okay.
When they heard their own long-known, meaningful music, boom, widespread activation across this whole special network, including that all-important prefrontal cortex. It showed real cognitive engagement, way beyond just hearing.
So the familiar, meaningful music wasn't just sound waves being registered. It was actively kicking the higher-level cognitive functions into gear.
Exactly. It wasn't just noise. It was triggering this whole cascade involving memory, emotion, executive function. It's why one of the researchers made that fantastic comment that this personal music is an access key to your memory, your prefrontal cortex. It seems to unlock those areas, maybe using these preserved pathways to get around some of the damage.
An access key. I love that imagery. It's so powerful. And that connects to their advice, doesn't it? Make that your brain gym.
Yes. It's a practical takeaway from the research. The idea is, look, whether you've ever played an instrument or not, doesn't matter. Just regularly listening to the music you genuinely love, the soundtrack of your life, can be seen as a deliberate cognitive workout. You're stimulating these vital neural networks. It could potentially help maintain cognitive function, and anyone can do it.
That's really empowering. And did this benefit apply equally to everyone in the study, musically trained or not?
It did. The cognitive boosts from listening to their nostalgic music were seen across the board. Now, there were some slight differences in the exact patterns of brain changes between musicians and non-musicians, but the positive cognitive outcomes, they were there for everyone, which really reinforces that engaging with personally meaningful music offers widespread benefits.
So music helps memory, especially in aging or decline, by tapping into these deep personal networks. But what about just generally? Does music shape our brains over the long haul?
Oh, absolutely. And the sources talking about music's evolution touch on this too. Long-term engagement with music, especially actually learning and playing music, is known to cause significant changes in the brain, both structurally and functionally. If you scan the brains of experienced musicians versus non-musicians, they actually look different.
It's physically different. How so?
Yeah, physically. For instance, studies show differences in gray matter density. That's basically the concentration of neurons and connections in areas vital for music, like the motor cortex for movement, the visual cortex, and obviously the auditory cortex. Musicians often also have a larger corpus callosum. That's the big nerve highway connecting the left and right sides of the brain, suggests better communication between the hemispheres, which makes sense given the coordination needed.
Yeah, playing an instrument or singing involves so many different skills working together.
Exactly. Music training is this incredibly complex activity. It involves multiple senses, fine motor control, memory, emotion, abstract thinking. And it strengthens connections across all sorts of brain regions, like people with absolute pitch who can name a note just by hearing it. They often show increased connectivity in the temporal lobe, which handles sound processing.
So the effects are really broad then, not just about hearing better.
Definitely broad. Music training can enhance language skills, those fine motor skills we mentioned, even spatial reasoning, and how your brain integrates information from different senses, multisensory functioning. It really is a full brain workout.
Okay, so which specific brain circuits are most involved when we engage with music? What did the sources highlight?
Well, it's definitely a network, not just one spot. Of course, the auditory system is fundamental for hearing the sound itself, but the motor cortex and premotor areas are heavily involved too.
Even when just listening?
Yeah, surprisingly. These areas aren't just for playing an instrument. They're active in planning actions, imagining playing, and even anticipating where the music is going next, predicting the melody or rhythm.
Huh. That predictive element comes from motor areas. That's interesting.
It is, but it makes sense if you think about rhythm and timing being so linked to movement. Then you've got the temporal lobe, crucial for processing sound, but also for social perception and recognizing familiar tunes. And don't forget older structures like the amygdala key for emotion and the cerebellum.
The cerebellum, I thought that was just for balance and coordination.
Mostly yes, but it's also increasingly implicated in processing emotions and, crucially, for music, timing, and rhythm. So yeah, it's this complex web activated by music way beyond just the hearing part.
And you mentioned something mind-blowing earlier, that you don't even need to hear the music for some of this activation.
That's right. It really shows how deeply music gets encoded in our brains. Research shows that just imagining music, thinking through a melody in your head, activates many of the very same brain regions as actually listening to it or playing it.
Wow.
This internal musical world is neurologically real. The classic example, of course, is Beethoven composing masterpieces after he'd gone completely deaf. He was working entirely within that internal, deeply encoded neural landscape.
That's just incredible to think about. So music isn't just fleeting sound waves. It's literally woven into our neural fabric, shaping our brains over our lifetimes.
It really is. And this deep biological connection points towards something even more fundamental, music's role in our history, our evolution, how we connect as humans, which brings us neatly to our next point. Music as our social and evolutionary soundtrack.
Okay, let's rewind. Way back. The sources suggest music might be incredibly ancient, deeply rooted in human evolution.
Oh yeah, very deep. Some theories even propose that rhythmic sounds, melodic calls proto-music, essentially might have been one of our primary ways of communicating before we developed complex language as we know it. Like maybe we sang or chanted together before we spoke in complex sentences.
Whoa, that really flips the usual idea of language coming first.
It does. And you see similar patterns across the animal kingdom, right? Birds singing complex songs, whales communicating over vast distances with melodic calls. It suggests this ancient link between pattern, sound, rhythm, and social interaction. Darwin himself speculated about this, suggesting early humans might have used musical notes and rhythm for things like courtship or group cohesion before articulate speech fully evolved.
So music, from this perspective, is fundamentally tied to our social instincts, like a kind of social glue.
Exactly. A binding factor is a term used in the sources. Music helps hold groups together. It makes it easier to connect, to share experiences, to build a sense of community, a shared identity. Think about group singing, dancing together, religious rituals with music. These are ancient and powerful ways to create social bonds and coordinate groups.
And there's actual research showing this happens.
Yes, absolutely. Particularly studies with children. They've found that when kids engage in joint music making, singing together, playing rhythm games, drumming in a group, it actually increases their pro-social behavior afterward.
There is social meaning.
Meaning they show more cooperation, more empathy, they're more likely to help each other out. It's a direct demonstration of how making music together builds those social links and encourages cooperation right from a young age.
And this ties into bigger ideas about how our brains evolved.
It connects quite well to the social brain hypothesis. That's the theory that the main driver for our brains getting bigger and more complex was the increasing complexity of our social lives, living in larger groups, needing to navigate more intricate social relationships.
Okay.
So if music helps facilitate that complex social interaction, helps coordinate groups, strengthens bonds, it might have actually played a role in creating the very conditions that pushed our brains to evolve the way they did.
So music wasn't just a byproduct of having big brains. It might have been part of the reason why we developed them.
That's one compelling line of thought, yeah. It was a powerful tool for navigating increasingly complex social worlds, and those complex worlds favored smarter, more adaptable individuals.
Is there a specific human condition or example that really highlights this link between being social and being musical?
Williams syndrome comes up often in the sources as a fascinating case study here. It's a genetic condition,
Yeah.
and it leads to a really unique profile. People with Williams syndrome are often described as hypersocial. Yeah, meaning they're incredibly outgoing, friendly, really eager to connect with people, sometimes even lacking the usual social inhibitions. They have this strong drive for social engagement. And what's really striking is that alongside this intense social drive, they almost always show a heightened interest in and aptitude for music. They often love music, respond strongly to it, sometimes have perfect pitch, even while they might struggle with other things, like spatial reasoning.
So the same condition that makes them super social also makes them super musical, often.
That seems to be the connection, yeah. It suggests a deep, perhaps biological link. The sources mentioned it could be related to how neurochemicals like oxytocin and dopamine, which we know are involved in social bonding and reward, and also in music response, might function differently in Williams syndrome. It offers this unique window into how our drive to connect and our capacity for music might be intertwined at a really fundamental level.
It really suggests it's not just culture, but something wired into our biology, this link between wanting to connect and responding to music.
Precisely. Yeah. And we shouldn't forget that music is almost always about action, even just tapping your foot or humming along. Then there's singing, dancing, playing an instrument. Music is deeply connected to our motor system. Moving together in time to music, rhythmic entrainment is an incredibly powerful way to bond socially. And that action part is ancient. Think about rhythmic drumming or chanting for coordinating work or for rituals.
Right. And we have actual physical proof of this ancient music making.
We do. Archaeology gives us concrete evidence. Researchers have found ancient musical instruments going back tens of thousands of years. Flutes carved from bone or mammoth ivory, stone lithophones, rocks that make tones when you strike them.
Tens of thousands of years. Wow.
Yes, sites in Europe, Asia, Africa have instruments dated over 40,000 years old. It shows music wasn't some late invention. It was part of human life very early on, developing right alongside other complex behaviors like making tools and using symbols.
So it likely started with these practical functions, communication, social bonding, coordinating action, but then it evolved into something more.
Exactly. While the origins might have been functional, humans clearly started creating and appreciating music just for its own sake, for the beauty, the emotion, the experience itself. And that shift, as one source puts it beautifully, is like a grand triumph of being human, creating something meaningful and beautiful just because we can.
And that brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? Finding joy. That grand triumph leads directly into how we find such deep personal joy in the music we love today.
Absolutely. Music's whole journey from ancient communication to modern art form is completely tied up with how we find joy and how we cope. And maybe the most powerful way it does this today is through nostalgia.
Nostalgia, that warm, maybe slightly fuzzy, sometimes bittersweet feeling about the past.
That's it. The sources describe it as this complex mix. There's pleasure, definitely, from remembering good times, childhood memories, holidays, weddings, first dates, all those cherished moments.
Yeah.
But often there's also that little pang of sadness because those times are gone. But here's the key. Generally, it's a positive feeling. It actually contributes to our well-being. It's pretty much universal.
And music is like a super trigger for nostalgia, right?
Right.
Maybe the strongest one.
Incredibly potent, yeah.
Yeah.
Because music gets so deeply tangled up with our memories, it's often playing during significant life events, or we listen to certain songs over and over during emotionally intense periods. So hearing that song later, it's like turning a key. It instantly unlocks not just the memory, but the feelings associated with that time or event.
It's not just the song itself, it's everything that happened around the song.
Exactly. It's the context. Now, sometimes, like the famous example from Casablanca, where the song, as time goes by, brings back painful memories, music-triggered nostalgia can be sad or bittersweet. But overwhelmingly, it's a source of comfort, positive feelings. And this effect is particularly strong for music from a specific time in our lives called the reminiscence bump.
The reminiscence bump? What's that?
It's this really consistent finding in memory research. Across different cultures, people tend to remember events from their adolescence and early adulthood, say, from about age 10 to 30, much more vividly and readily than from other periods of their lives.
Why then?
Well, it's a time of huge identity formation. Lots of firsts, first love, first job, leaving home, big life changes, intense emotions. And the music we listen to obsessively during those years gets deeply encoded alongside those powerful memories. So years later, that music becomes an incredibly potent trigger for nostalgia. It brings back the feelings of that formative time.
Ah, so that's why the songs from high school or college feel so significant later on. It's the reminiscence bump soundtrack.
Pretty much. It's tied to that period of intense experience and self-discovery. And for older adults especially, listening to music from their youth can be really beneficial. It can bring back feelings of vitality, connection, maybe even empowerment by reminding them of who they were then.
And this nostalgia sparked by music, it's not just a nice feeling, it actually serves a purpose. It helps us.
Yeah, it's seen as a really important self-regulatory tool. Think about when you're stressed or going through a tough transition, feeling uncertain. Nostalgia, often brought on by music, can be a real source of comfort and resilience.
Right.
By letting us mentally revisit positive past experiences, it reaffirms our sense of self, our connections to others, our personal history. It gives us a feeling of continuity and meaning, especially when the present feels messy or difficult. The sources mention how during the COVID lockdowns, for instance, people really leaned into nostalgia, remembering simple things like having lunch with friends or going to shows, things often linked to specific music. And we even do it deliberately, right? Feeling down.
Yeah.
Put on those old favorite songs. We know intuitively that it can help boost our mood and give us a more positive outlook.
Okay, so pulling it all together, we've got the biology, the dopamine rush. We've got the brain changing, getting stronger through plasticity. We've got the deep evolutionary roots, music as social glue. We've got nostalgia acting as this access key to cherished memories and helping us cope. It all seems to converge on this one core thing, finding joy in our favorite music.
It absolutely does. All these different layers, the chemicals, the brain networks, the social history, the personal memories, they all feed into that profound sense of joy and connection we get from the music we love. It connects us to our past, strengthens our present, helps us navigate our emotions, and even links us to this bigger human story.
And that idea of finding joy right now, in the present moment, even in simple things that came up too, didn't it?
Yes, that was an interesting thread, how people specifically use music to help them appreciate the present, to find contentment in everyday life. It's another way we consciously use music for well-being. The kinds of songs mentioned in that context, they weren't necessarily about big achievements or drama. They were more about appreciating what you have, slowing down, finding beauty right here, right now.
Yeah, like those examples mentioned, songs with titles like Simple Man or Three Little Birds, Lovely Day, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. They're not about striving. They're about just being, finding peace.
Exactly. It shows people actively building their personal soundtrack, not just for highs and lows, but for cultivating that state of sort of peaceful contentment, using music to ground themselves and feel gratitude for the simple stuff. It's a deliberate emotional goal.
And beyond all the deep emotional and memory stuff, the sources briefly touched on some other practical benefits too, ways music helps us feel good or cope better day to day.
Right, yeah. Things like its use in therapy to help with depression or anxiety again, with some hints that certain genres might work better for specific goals. Or how listening to music you enjoy while driving doesn't just make the commute less boring. Studies suggest it can actually lead to safer driving, less aggression,
Okay.
and even just making repetitive work more tolerable or improving focus. Putting on music can genuinely make unpleasant tasks feel better, boosting mood and maybe even productivity. Small things, but they add up to overall well-being.
So whether it's giving you that dopamine hit, helping you work through tough feelings, unlocking precious memories, literally exercising your brain, connecting you deeply with others, or just making a Tuesday afternoon feel a bit brighter, your favorite music is doing some seriously heavy lifting in your life.
It really is. It's so much more than just background noise. It's this incredibly complex, dynamic interaction with your biology, your personal history, your social self, your emotional core. Our connection to music isn't trivial. It's fundamental to being human.
So if we had to boil it down, the core lesson from this whole deep dive seems clear. The music you love isn't just a playlist. It's this incredibly powerful, versatile toolkit for your well-being. It's a direct line to who you are, who you've been, the moments that made you. It's how we connect, how we cope, how we find meaning.
It really is a testament to the almost magical power that organized sound holds for us.
So thinking about all this, about how profound and measurable the impact of music really is, maybe the question for you listening now is, how can you be more intentional about using it? How can you bring the soundtrack of your happiest moments, your most meaningful memories into your daily life more consciously? What songs are waiting to be your brain gym, your emotional first aid kit, your key to unlocking joy?
Or maybe just ponder this enduring mystery, which is kind of beautiful. Science can explain the dopamine, the brain networks, the prolactin, the evolutionary pressures, but the specific way that one particular song gets under your skin makes you feel exactly that way, brings back that specific memory with such clarity. Well, that still feels like your own personal, profound magic, doesn't it?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. We look forward to exploring more with you next time.